Hello and welcome to HomeTech. HomeTech is a podcast dedicated to discovering and exploring new and old technologies for the home. We discuss news about the Internet of Things, home automation, and more. I'm Seth Johnson in Florida, and I'm joined by Jason Griffing in Los Angeles. This is episode 1, Designing a Smart Home. Welcome to episode 1 of the HomeTech podcast. I'm Seth Johnson, and I'm joined by Jason Griffing.
How you doing, Seth?
How you doing, Jason?
I'm doing well.
This podcast we've started to kind of bring our experience as professional integrators to the mass market and tell everyone or show everyone what you can do with some of the emerging products in the Internet of Things and home technology. We're really excited about starting this podcast and hoping to see where it heads and leads.
Yeah, definitely. I think that it'll be a fun project, and I'm hoping that as a couple of professional systems integrators, we can bring some of that knowledge to bear and help people who are enthusiastic about the technology and maybe want to get into some do-it-yourself projects, learn a little bit and take a little bit away from the show. And there's a lot of really cool stuff going on right now in home automation, and it's becoming a lot cheaper and a lot easier to do some really cool integrations. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Absolutely, and it kind of brings us around to what we're going to talk about this first episode. We'll get to a little bit later on, is actually designing and thinking about what you want to do to make a smart home system. There's a whole lot of products out there. There's a whole lot of different options that you have, even with it just being an emerging market, from just kind of the do-it-yourself stuff like SmartThings and Revolve, and moving into security-based systems like Alarm.com and 2GIG security panels. So it's amazing what you can do for so little money these days. We were talking a little bit in the pre-show about how much this probably has costed us both over a number of years. I know it's my wallet's been on fire for a while. So, Jason, I guess give us a little bit background on what you do in the real world, so to speak.
Certainly. Yeah. I live out in Los Angeles, and I am currently a project manager at a firm known as Via Home, and we serve the high-end luxury residential market. And Via Home actually covers multiple states. It's a pretty big company, around, I think, about 500 employees total, if you take everyone into consideration. So it's a very large organization, but I'm out here in the SoCal branch working as a project manager. So I basically oversee installations, do a lot more traffic directing these days, honestly, than I used to, but came up through the industry as a tech, started pulling wire and pretty quickly moved into doing programming, and really enjoyed that, and spent a number of years doing programming with various systems, mainly Savant and Control4, RTI, URC, all the main names there. But yeah, now my job is kind of a project manager, direct traffic, keep clients happy, get the techs everything that they need, get them prepared, and try to bring in projects on time and on budget, which can be a daunting task.
Absolutely. So I'm in the opposite end of the spectrum there. I'm with Bright Sky Home Theater in Sarasota, Florida. It's a little small town south of Tampa, if anyone knows where that is. And there's only about 5 of us, so just a little bit smaller than than your place.
Yeah, definitely.
I kind of started the same way you did. I guess it sounds like we all do. Start pulling wire, move into programming, move into sales, move into project management and everything. In a smaller company, I tend to wear a lot of hats these days. So, yeah,
I know how that goes. Definitely. The podcast, I think, is it's a good time now with the way technology is evolving to get this information out there, because as a professional, obviously, it's our job to keep an eye on these new technologies and what's going on. And I think if we're honest with ourselves as professionals, it's some of this new technology can be almost a little bit scary in the sense how easy and inexpensive it's now become to do some really really cool home automation things. So I'm excited to dive in and learn more, and hope that we can, share with our audience along the way.
Same here. The price points are dropping so fast and so quickly on things that just cost a few years ago $100 cost $25 now.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's amazing. It's amazing how much movement there is in this area, and how much over the next year I'm sure is going to come to the market. We have only just seen the tip of the iceberg here. As far as product that comes to market, there's some big players that are sitting on the sideline. We all kind of think about Apple and Google, but they're there, and they definitely have money to throw at it. So when they want to come out with something, they definitely will.
Yeah. Well, they definitely proved that recently with the purchase of Nest for a cool $3.2 billion
in hard, cold Google cash.
Yeah, just really an insane amount of money if you think about it. For
unbelievable.
It really only has one product, sort of two, if you count the Nest Protect. But it's my understanding that that one particularly hasn't really, permeated in the market yet. But I think it was a smart move for Google, and I'm curious to see how it shakes out. But right now, there's other companies doing some really cool things too. I'm sure we'll end up talking a lot over the course of this podcast about companies like SmartThings and Revolve, and actually, I think you were telling me that both of those guys have some Valentine's specials coming up. Is that right?
Yeah, it looks like SmartThings has a 10% off promo going on, where if you purchase any order that contains a SmartThings hub, you can get 10% off. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I might take advantage of that.
Love your home, and it will love you back, is what they're telling us.
It's not bad. And then Revolve, I think, is doing a Valentine's giveaway of some sort. They're giving away a Revolve controller, which unlike SmartThings, it looks like it just ties into a bunch of other stuff. And then SmartThings kind of has their own ecosystem where they use their product in a number of the Z-Wave type products. But they definitely have the option to move into other types of devices. So
yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I hadn't really stopped to think about it that way per se, but they are taking two pretty different approaches to automation. So we can get more into that when we get into kind of the meat of this episode. But yeah, Revolve is interesting in that it's almost this little hub, and it sits on, you can almost think of it as a layer on top of everything else. Whereas SmartThings actually seems to be more into developing their own ecosystem, but they both seem to be aware and seem to be developing in a direction that embraces open standards and open integrations. So I think more and more we're going to see that closed APIs and standalone systems are going to be a thing of the past, and more companies are going to realize that keeping open standards and integrating with more products is really what the market wants right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's amazing how many companies have come out with APIs over the last 6 months. Nest announced theirs at before they were pre-Google. They announced their API at CEDIA last year, which is the custom installation channels trade show. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting world with all these connected devices that open themselves up, open their data up to developers, and from developers come end users, to where you can go ahead and literally program your house by yourself. I think this is where all this is headed.
Yeah, I agree.
It just looks so cool.
Yeah,
for those people who love to tinker with things.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that I think you and I have talked about this in conversations before, that I think is going to end up driving the push to more mainstream home automation, is the fact that more and more people our age now are the ones buying this technology, and we're people that have grown up being comfortable with using technology. So we are into tinkering. We enjoy that process, where as it stands right now, a lot of my clients, I can't see them being into a system like Revolve or SmartThings because it would just take a little bit too much of their time to kind of sit down and figure it out. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about all my clients, but in general. And I think that as more young people are building homes and buying homes and are becoming the main consumers of this technology, it's really going to push innovation in the market.
Yeah, I would back that up and say nearly all my clients would be. We don't have very many young people in this area. It being Florida.
Yeah.
So most
Gotcha.
all of them need help, turning the TV on, and that's where our market lies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely going to shape up to be a more interesting market when some of these products start becoming more mainstream and start being accepted by the mass market. You're going to see a push to make devices that are interoperable with each other, and you're going to see just a massive amount of development put in to having smart devices that can talk to each other and just kind of live together properly, I guess, is kind of where I want to go with that. But yeah, it's all coming. We can see it coming because we're kind of right on the edge. We're into that wave there, and it's about to come crashing down. So this year is, in my opinion, definitely going to be exciting. So
and I think that the problem now is becoming not a lack of products or a lack of information or a lack of protocols. It's the opposite. There's tons of information and there's tons of products and there's all sorts of different protocols, and try for somebody who's just getting into it and just starting to think about designing a home that integrates some of this technology, it can just be hugely overwhelming. So that's something that I hope we can help out with the Home Tech podcast, and just let people know and kind of offer them some insights on how this can best be approached. So with that, I think we could probably jump into the meat of the episode if we want to start talking about how to design a smart home and what the steps are involved in that.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a daunting task. Like you said, there's so many options. Where do you even start?
Right.
And this is kind of what I end up doing every day with clients. Is just sitting down and saying, what do you want to do? What are your goals? Do you want to have music in every room in the house? Do you want to do you want to be able to monitor your house while you're away and see and make sure that you arm the security system when you left? Do you want to get a text message to know that somebody disarmed the system or somebody set off the alarm at your house during the day? Do you want to see who is walking inside of your house when they shouldn't be there? There's all sorts of options, and just finding out, writing those things down, writing down what you would like really does help, because when you go and you find a product like Revolve or SmartThings, or even some of the more professional dealer products like Control4, Crestron, those are going to, you're going to have a list of a shopping list essentially of things that you want to do, and you want to find the system that maybe doesn't cover all of them, but maybe covers 20 or 30% of them, but also gives you the ability to grow into the rest of that system, because I'm sure that it's very hard financially to do most of this right off the bat for most people.
Yeah.
Even with the dropping prices, and you're still talking about a few $1,000s to have it done right. So
yeah, I agree. I think it's really important to don't think about just adding technology to your house for technology's sake. I think you need to work backwards from sort of a pre-thought out plan of how you want your house to function and what it is that you really want to get out of the technology. And that may sound trite and obvious, but a lot of people actually overlook that. And so I think it's important just to sit down and just walk through a day and how you go about doing things in your house on a daily basis, and then think backwards from there on how things might be enhanced or made more efficient through the use of a smart automation system. So that can take a lot of different shapes, but I think the takeaway is just to make sure that you're really thinking on a personal level, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and just thinking about, carefully about what it is that you want and the type of functionality, because there's so many different, routes you can go with it, with, like you said, security and monitoring and audio and video and access control, like controlling locks or gates or
lights
and shades.
Lights gets really expensive very quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So think about what you want and think about, scalability. Like you said, make sure you're going with a system that, even if you're not going to lay out all the time and money up front to do all of the integrations that you think you might want someday, make sure that you're using a system that will allow you to eventually scale into that.
Yep. One thing I just noticed on the Smart Things website, I was kind of perusing it. They have a nice little menu right at the top that says solutions. And they sell solutions rather than the products, which is kind of the angle that I'm saying, and you're saying, we're both saying, to think of this as. Automatically turn on and off lights, that's a solution. Detect leaks and floods, that's a solution. Lock and unlock your door. That's the kind of things you want to write down. And when you go looking for a product, you want to make sure that it has the ability to do these things, or even kind of looks like it might have the ability to do them in the future. Obviously, if you want to unlock your doors and turn off your lights, a product like Sonos, which is a house audio system, isn't going to do that very well.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's funny. Some people just don't, you have to just sit down and do some obviously very basic research, right? I mean, it's not rocket science, but just understanding those basic differences is really important.
Absolutely. And
it's Smart Things, I think, it's a great example, because if you look at their website and kind of some of their verbiage and the way they sort of advertise their app, I'm looking at something right now on their website that says, "Hi there, it's me, your home. Smart Things helps me memorize your routines and adjust to fit your preferences." So it's making the technology very personal. Right. And I think that's what we're getting at, is don't get too bogged down in the technology and the nuts and bolts of how it all works. Think more about functionally and how you want it to work from a high level, and then work backwards from there.
Absolutely. And I think the second thing you can do to help you along this road is, I hate to say it, but you can actually hire somebody to figure this out for you. You can go with them to these lists. You can go to a local integrator. It's not like I hate to say that. It is what I do every day for a living. But if you need something done with your plumbing, you go to a plumber.
Right.
If you need something done with your car, you go to the mechanic. There are guys who do specific tasks every single day, and they do it well. And I think any good integrator out there, if you call them up and talk to them and say, "Hey, I'd like to pay for an hour of your time just to sit down and talk to you about my goals and what I want to do," or even just walk in and pick their brain. That would be a really good option for a lot of people. They may have a product that could, that surprises you on the price point, and that they have a lot of success with, and kind of introduce you to that product. Or you may introduce them to a product, and they may get real excited, because I can tell you, if somebody walked in the door and was talking about using simple things, I would be all over that in a heartbeat. I've had a couple people come in with a product called Mi Casa Verde, and just kind of bounce some ideas off them, and they got real excited about using the Mi Casa Verde piece that they had at their house. So I mean, those type, they walk in the door, they talk, and then we both go our different ways, and I don't hear back from them much. But that's definitely something that you could do, is to talk to somebody that is a professional and that does it for a living. Just be courteous of their time, and I wouldn't say trying to get too much free information.
No, a few things come to my mind when you say that, as obviously a professional integrator. I get questions like this all the time from friends and family, and and people that I associate with outside of friends and family as well, just, through different groups that I'm a part of and whatnot. And as an integrator, I enjoy talking about this stuff. And for me, it's kind of fun. So if you want to reach out to an integrator, it's great if you have a friend or somebody like that who does it. They're probably going to be willing to help you out for free, right? But if you're going to just call an integrator on the phone and expect some of their time, then yeah, I would agree with you. You need to be respectful of their time. And I think that it will depend largely on what integrator you talk to. I think that there are still a lot of integrators, and I can't say that I blame them, but they just are extremely busy and may not have time if they know right off the bat that, let's be honest, if you want to do the project yourself, they might not really be willing to work with you. But that's changing, I think.
Yeah, I do too.
I think that's changing very quickly because most integrators and younger integrators are at least the ones who are paying attention to the business landscape are realizing that, the systems like Revolve and SmartThings are just the beginning, right? And they're not going anywhere. So we need to adjust our business models to that. And I think that eventually we're going to see more integrators start to offer just kind of a la carte design services where they'll help people who want to do the system themselves, maybe lay them out with a simple floor plan and some basic advice about what wires to pull where. Because even just a little bit of advice from a pro can go a long ways.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and there's one thing you don't want to mess up if you're wiring a house or building a home and trying to get, the electrician to put some wire in the wall for you. You don't want to mess those wires up.
Yeah.
Because it could be very costly later to have the wrong wire going from point A to point B. And that this is what I do all day long is design system out and say what wire goes where. We may overwire a house, but there's probably a reason in our experience as to why we overwired a house. I'm always surprised at how many people I listen to on other podcasts, and they talk about how they kind of stepped in and told the electrician to run Cat 5 from point A to point B, and it's like, wait a minute, I've been doing that for 10, 15 years now. This is this is nothing new. This is what it should be in every house. Yeah. And yet you still hear these horror stories, or I've actually been to a couple of horror stories where I walk into a house that doesn't have any cabling in it at all. Like TV cable, it has one TV jack in the master bedroom, and one phone line in the kitchen, and it was actually probably about $4 or $5 million house on the beach with no option to retrofit. So it was a bad day when he said he had poor Wi-Fi reception in the beach cabana. I can't do anything for you here.
Yeah, it is amazing that still happens a lot. And I just tell people all the time, it's like just pull a whole bunch of Cat 6. Like that's all you got to do. Like, obviously speaker wire and stuff like that, some coax, but it's with Cat 6 now, it's so versatile. And there's so much you can do with it. You can send almost anything over it.
It's so cheap too. I mean, the initial investment that you're going to make on a couple boxes of Cat 6 for an electrician to pull through your house, that's going to save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in the long run, if and when you actually go to utilize it. So yeah.
But even just talking, having a brief conversation with a professional, I think the one I see all the time from people who just had, an electrician do it, and it's it's not a knock on the electricians, but it's like just a common mistake where you'll see the coax, like the RG6, pulled right up to where the TV is going to hang on the wall, when the coax really needs to be in the back of the room where the cable box is going to live.
All the time.
That's like the one I see all the time. And it's just little things like that just don't seem like a big deal until you actually start hooking up equipment and you realize that you're just wired incorrectly, and now you got to, shove a cable box behind your TV to make everything work. And it's just, stuff like that can be avoided. So I think that, that pretty much wraps up like number 2 is just, even if you are a do-it-yourselfer, I think it's worth considering even just like a brief conversation with a professional.
Yeah. I mean, I I'd love to have somebody come in, and I've had in the past come in and ask, where do I pull these wires? And I'm more than happy to, they come in with a floor plan or something. That's kind of on my number 2 start a design section is, start with a floor plan and lay where all this is. And if you bring that into an integrator, he's going to love it, because he can just sit there and point and say, this is, he or she can sit there and say, this is where this wire needs to run to. So yeah, it's a, if you can consult a professional in any endeavor that you're going into, you definitely want to see if you can do that, because it's gonna help in the long run.
Yeah, I had another one. So we'll get off the
integrator one. Yeah.
Pro. Yeah, right. Because these are do-it-yourselfers. So.
Yeah, they don't want to hear this.
Think infrastructure. You got to a number of common mistakes that get made, and we kind of just touched on them a little bit. But one of the things that I see get overlooked all the time, even in the professional world, is not adequately thinking through where the gear is going to be stored.
Oh, yeah.
And if it's going to be a centralized system where all the cable boxes and everything like that they're all going to live, together in a rack, maybe in a closet or down in the basement, then you have to wire a certain way. If you're going to have local stacks of equipment out in each room that has a TV, then that's a totally different method of wiring. And there's pros and cons to doing it both ways. But that's a decision that needs to be made and stuck with pretty much right off the bat.
Right. There's no way to do both of those types of systems at the same time effectively.
Yeah.
You have a centralized system. You need to you're going to put some money into making sure that closet is adequately ventilated. You start putting these 120 degree running temperature cable boxes inside of a closed door closet. They're going to heat up fast, and they're going to start destroying your equipment that you actually paid for.
Exactly.
So yeah, and the topology of wiring everything back to a central location. I mean, that's very powerful. We've been using that for our networks for a number of years for things like structured wiring that most people have in their house. Or most new modern homes have. But when you bring in the AV components, they can be wired in exactly the same way. And that's some of my clients' favorite types of systems, simply because all you end up with in the room is a remote and a TV.
Yeah.
You don't see any equipment. It's beautiful. That's how it should be.
much cleaner way to do it, and it allows you to, like you said, plan for cooling and ventilation in one room instead of 5 or 6 different closets or cabinets where you have. Boy. And cabinets are the worst. I mean, it happens all the time, even on professional jobs where it just is sort of an afterthought, and all of a sudden you realize, that an AV receiver, cable box, Blu-ray player, Apple TV, a network switch, maybe you got to stick a wireless access point in there. It all adds up. A power conditioner, battery backup, all this stuff. So
they all have dimensions too.
Yeah.
And
it adds up.
And the cabinet guy will never think of your AV equipment being 17 or 18 inches wide when he builds a 16-inch cabinet. And that's the fact of the matter is it won't fit in like it should, and you'll end up turning it on its side. I've seen it done so many times. It's a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the takeaway there is just you have to think about the physical constraints and the physical space where you're going to store all this stuff. Make sure you think about cooling and ventilation. One other note I had on infrastructure is, and I know we've talked about it before, is the importance of hardwiring anything you possibly can.
Yep.
I think that nowadays there's so much marketing hype behind wireless everything, and wireless is great for retrofit, and it's enables us to do some pretty amazing things. But if you're starting a new project, there's really no reason why you shouldn't be hardwiring everything, in my opinion.
The performance difference on a hardwired versus wireless network is astronomically unbelievable. I mean, to rely on a wireless system to do something that could be a life safety issue. I mean, if you consider that sometimes you're involving lighting control systems, you definitely want to have as much as you can hardwired from the very beginning. Because it's the system is just going to work so much better than it will on wireless.
And a lot of people just don't, having so many different technologies out there now that are wireless is great, but it's a blessing and a curse because we live now in a world that's so full of RF noise, and a lot of these technologies operate on the same 2.4 gigahertz frequency. So you need to really think carefully about when and where you're going to use wireless and use wired whenever possible. And it also dovetails actually nicely into a conversation about the importance of your network. Yeah. Because really, at the end of the day, all this stuff, there's a number of different protocols and stuff going on, but really the backbone of the home automation system of the future is IP. It's your network.
Yep.
So really investing in, you don't have to go nuts with the networking hardware. You don't need top of the line Cisco necessarily, but you may want to spend a few extra bucks to get something more prosumer than just the router that your cable company provides.
Right.
It's probably worth spending that little bit of extra money to get high performance network gear, get some good wireless access points, read up on Wi-Fi, understand how to configure them, how to set them to different channels so they're not overlapping. Basics like doing a network scan of your house, especially if you live in an apartment building or condo where there's a lot of competing Wi-Fi, and try to set your devices to a channel that's less crowded than the others. And those are some basic
There's a great
steps.
tool for that. It's free, too. I'll put it in our show notes that don't exist yet, but I'll put them there.
They will.
It's called Insider by MetaGeek. And
that's the one I use as well.
Yeah, it's great. You can just fire it up and see all of those cable company provided routers ended up on channel 1 because nobody went in and changed them. And then you've got channel 6 and channel 11 that are your non-overlap.
All to yourself.
Yep, they're all to yourself. Just put it on channel 11 and you've got all the bandwidth to your Wi-Fi.
Yeah, exactly. And if you get a wireless router that does 5 gigahertz, that can be kind of nice too because you can set up that separate 5 gigahertz network, and you don't get quite the same range. But if you're just trying to work on Wi-Fi in your small apartment or something, you'll get plenty of range out of that, and it's often far less crowded than
it's much less crowded space.
So it's kind of a trade-off with range, but there's a lot less noise. So there's pros and cons to that as well.
Yep.
So I think with infrastructure that pretty much covers it.
I think in the future we'll probably be revisiting some of these points. Ad nauseum, to and go over them, again or in more detail, and with at the same time, like you said, stressing that your connection to the outside world and the network inside your house is very important with many of these products. I can only think of a handful that don't rely on your home internet network.
Exactly.
And those tend to have service costs associated with them. Like your alarm company will offer a cellular GSM connection, and that you don't need to have a phone line or Wi-Fi for that, but all your alarm signals and everything go over that network. But that's very few and far between. Most people listening to this podcast are probably going to have internet.
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah. One of the last things that I wanted to just cover quickly in this episode was just understanding different protocols, and this gets a little bit techie, but I think it's important to at least spend a little bit of time if you're just getting started understanding, all the different protocols that are out there. There's Z-Wave, Zigbee, X10, which is an older one and is kind of, I think
it's
may be pretty much done. Yeah. But, you still see you still see X10 talked about and thrown around. It's important to understand what it is. There's Insteon, obviously Wi-Fi. So there's a lot of different protocols out there, and it's important to understand what each one of them is. And I think we'll probably do a separate episode explaining that each one, maybe individually spend a few minutes on each one. But
sure.
The takeaway for when you're first starting on your design is just at least, do a quick Google search for like home automation protocols and just do some reading and understand, what each one of them is, what it's good for, and what it's not good for.
Absolutely. There's different shoes that are going to fit the same feet, but some of them are more comfortable, I suppose, than others. So
yeah, and the cool thing now is like Revolve is a great example of. I think that they're really being smart about the way they're approaching home automation, because the little Revolve hub that you buy has, I think I'm double checking right now, seven. Yeah, 7 wireless radios built into it.
Crazy.
So
for the price, I mean, it's like $200-$300. I mean,
yeah. And just so we're clear, so everyone understands, it has 7 different radios that speak. It says 10 different wireless languages. So they're covering
they're hedging all their bets.
Yeah, they're hedging all their bets. Exactly. It says right here I'll read right from their website. It says, that's right. We're setting the record for smart home device compatibility, starting with Z-Wave, Insteon, and Wi-Fi compatibility, and with future software updates, adding support for Zigbee and other languages. So I'm not sure exactly what other languages they're referring to there, but the takeaway is that a system like Revolve will be compatible with devices that speak any one of these protocols. So it's a very clever approach, I think, what they're doing. And I think they're definitely one to watch.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're not picking sides. So they're definitely open to any device you can bring to the table, integrating with their system. And that, like you said, it's going to be a very interesting year to watch these guys and see what they come up with.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, understanding all these different protocols and another thing that it's sort of semi-related, but I think it's important to understand. I get it a lot now from clients where we're having more and more to sell them on the value of a fully integrated system with a unified interface, right? So it's kind of, I always use this comparison. I found it pretty effective that, everything now has its own little standalone app, right? Mm-hmm. But having a house that's controlled with 10 or 12 or 15 different apps is like the modern day equivalent of having, 8 remotes on the coffee table.
Right.
And you're constantly switching between these different apps to control the lights, and then you switch over to another app to control your Nest thermostat, and then you switch over to a third app to control your Sonos music system, and a fourth one for the pool or whatever it is. So a system like Revolve or SmartThings will talk to a lot of these systems, but allow you to control them through a nice, clean, unified interface. So that's really the value that they're providing. And it's important to understand why that's valuable and why that's different from using, all the standalone apps.
Right. Yeah, and I my experience is that a unified interface might not have all of the options of the the standalone interface. So
right.
They may take on a thermostat, they may take the temperature and states of the fan, what heat cool stage and everything, and pull that into the app. But they may not give you the full scheduling breakdown that the thermostat is able to do. And
right.
For that, you'd have to go to the higher level app, if you will. But if you just want to see the temperature, these things they'll be great.
Yeah, it's kind of like the 80-20 rule, though. Like you get like probably 80% of the real like control that you really need out of like 20% of the buttons, and those 20% are probably the buttons that Revolve or SmartThings is giving you in their app, right? And so then it's only for that last little 20% of the kind of ancillary stuff that you may need to control that you'll just, at that point, switch over to the other app. But I think it's just, for the purposes of our conversation here, it's just important to understand that difference. So,
very cool, very cool. Well, I think we're running. We might be running long. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've covered enough for this episode. Get people started and hopefully get the wheels turning and get people thinking creatively about doing a home automation system and how to approach that from the start.
Well, Jason, if somebody wanted to contact you and maybe bounce a couple of ideas off of you, where would they best do that?
Yeah, I think the best place would just be on Twitter at Jason Griffing. And as we talked about before the show, there's a G at the end of my name, Griffing, at Jason Griffing.
Absolutely. And mine, same thing. I'd say Twitter's the best way to get a hold of me, and it's Seth P, as in Paul, Johnson, and just the @ sign in front of it, like all Twitter handles.
Yep. That's how they work, right?
Yeah. Or you probably could just search for that and find me at some point in time, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Well, I guess that wraps up episode 1. We'll be coming back soon with another episode. Not sure what we're going to discuss yet, but if you have any ideas, just tweet us and let us know what you'd like us to talk about. We'd be more than happy to use it. So,
most definitely. All right. Thanks,
cool.
Seth.
Yeah, thanks, Jason.
All right.
Have a good one.